Hey, I'm Randy, I'm the Cheap Audio Man, and today we're going to talk about the Marantz NR1711. You may say, hey Randy, you've already done a video on this, and I have, and it was horrible. So I noticed that there's actually a little bit of interest in this, so I'm making a new one to be better, so you don't have to watch the bad old one. So grab a beverage, sit down, and let's talk about the Marantz NR1711. Okay, so I've got notes. I've got a lot of notes. I've got pages upon pages upon pages of notes. So just a quick overview. This is a 7.2 channel receiver, but it's got a lot of functionality. It lists, I think, for $800 or $799 in the US right now. And that sounds like a lot, and it is, but if you start to add up everything that this component can do, it starts to kind of look like a better and better value. And depending upon what you have currently, this could be a good option for you. So it is rated at 50 watts into 8 ohms. And that may not sound like a lot, but that's 2 channels driven, and it's 0.08% total harmonic distortion, which is a very good number. That's 8 ohms. It also drives 4 ohm speakers. It does not state what the power is at 4 ohm speakers. If I had to guess, I would say it's probably 75 to 85, maybe even 90 watts per channel on 4 ohm speakers. And I did drive 4 ohm speakers, the ELAC Unify UB5s, and it did just fine with them. So, and again, 50 watts, there's a beat. Wow, that's a big bee. It almost got me. Good thing I'm not allergic. I don't know what I was saying. So anyway, it drives the Unify UB5s really well. Really well. So, all right, I'm gonna go down the list here. This video is going to be pretty much kind of music centric, and that's what I'm gonna really highlight on. But I'm going to go over all the different modes and all that stuff too. So it can do the regular stuff, 7.1, 5.1.2 if you're using Dolby, or excuse me, Dolby Atmos speakers, 5.1 plus Zone 2 if you have speakers in another room, 5.1 bi-amp, and I did do that. Actually, I did 4.1 bi-amp, and I bi-amped the Klipsch RP600Ms. I couldn't tell a huge difference, but the option was there. And I never really scrutinized the sound. I just did it because I had the option. So you can do that. And then it's got a really interesting option. And that's 5.1 channel front B. So what this opens up is the ability to run not only a traditional 5.1 surround system, but it also gives you the option of having a dedicated 2-channel system or 2.1 channel, and I'll tell you how to do that. So what you can do is you can have a full setup, 5.1 setup, and then have 2 different speakers as your 2-channel or 2.1 channel setup. And that opens up a lot of possibilities for this thing. So basically what you have is, in essence, is a 5.1 channel surround receiver and a 2-channel surround receiver, or a 2-channel integrated amp. It's got a DAC. It's a 32-bit DAC. It's a AKM. It's an older AKM, but it still works. And I'm glad Marantz put not AKM, an AK. It's a AK4458. I'm glad they did that, because that is a good DAC chip. Even if it's an older DAC chip, it's still a good DAC chip. And it is a testament that this is not an afterthought of a DAC. So that's good. That's good for music. All right, it's got all the things. It's got the Dolby Atmos, Dolby Surround, Dolby Atmos height visualization. So DTS, Neural X, what is that? It basically takes a PCM, so it's basically doing all the thinking in here. So it's taking whatever signal your TV or your streamer's putting out, and this is video, and it's upsampling it, or it's doing all the heavy lifting inside here. So if you just have a, I don't know, a PCM signal, which is a 2-channel system, or 2-channel signal, it'll up that to whatever you're doing. So it could be 5.1, could be 5.1.2 with the Atmos, it could be whatever you want. And it's got virtual height channels. I did try that. To my ear, it wasn't really all that great, but it is there. This also includes Odyssey room correction software, and this is a very powerful software. Hold on, I'm going to drink. Very powerful software. And if you're at all familiar with any of the receiver room correction software, generally you stick a mic in the middle of the room and you run a bunch of test tones. Then it takes all that data and it spits out crossovers, spits out distances. This takes it a step further. So you have actually 6 positions that you put the microphone in. And it gives you all the same things, but what it also gives you is an EQ preset. And that EQ preset can be either reference or it can be flat. So what it's doing is it's taking all your room imperfections. It's also testing your speakers for the test tone that puts out. And then it's automatically setting an EQ that gives the response that Odyssey wants you to have. I like that for home theater. And if you have not very good front speakers, that's fine. However, I don't want Odyssey messing with my RP600Ms or my ELAC debut reference. I want to maintain their flavor and their tonality and their tone. I don't want to mess with it, okay? Because it's good enough already. Actually, it's great already. The good news is you can bypass your front speakers if you're only doing like a 7.1 point or 7.2 or a 5.1.2. You can bypass your front speakers on any of those. So when you start to listen to music, you're not EQing your front speakers. You may want to EQ your front speakers, and that's fine. The option's there. Not only when you get the Odyssey feedback, then you can go in and you can tweak that EQ to your liking, really. For me though, I don't want any EQ put on my my front speakers or the speakers I'm using for music listening. I want their flavor, and I don't care about the room. I don't care about the room correction when it comes to my music speakers. I want them as is. If I want to do room treatments, I'll do room treatments, but I don't. I just want to listen to them. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. There's another really cool feature in this, and that is called direct mode and pure direct mode. In those modes, these are meant for music. In those modes, it starts to shut down portions of the receiver that you're not using. And what that does is it reduces the amount of electrical noise that's going through your system. And there is a difference. I did try it. So there's an auto mode, a direct mode, and a pure direct mode. In pure direct mode, it shuts down the front display. I think that's pretty cool. And it does sound better. And direct mode takes away any DSP processing. Now, if you want to use subs in direct or pure direct mode, when you are choosing your speakers and when you're choosing your crossover, you have to set the sub to LFE, low frequency effect, plus main. And what that does is it sends the entire signal, so you're not just sending a high pass signal to your speakers. It sends the entire signal to your front speakers, because in direct mode and pure direct mode, it's sending the whole signal to the speakers anyway. But if you want to add a sub into that, you just put LFE plus main on your sub. Another cool thing is you can do multiple presets on your speakers. So you can do, I think, up to 3 presets. So if you're watching a movie and you only want the high frequencies going to your front speakers, you can make that into a preset, and then you can select that preset for movies. If you want to do what I do, which is kind of bypassing all the DSP on the front channels and really just running a straight source into my front channels in the sub, then you can do that. So it's pretty cool. So you can make the movie preset number 1, the music preset number 2. There's a lot of functionality, and all of those presets can have their own EQs, and they can have their own room correction, really. So you can run different room corrections if you, I don't know why you'd want to do that, but if you have different listening positions, that might be something that you'd want to look into. There's a whole bunch of different things really surrounding movies. So but there is one cool thing for compressed, MP3 audio. I'm losing all my notes. Okay. It's called MDAX. And what it does is it basically upsamples lossy formats like MP3. I don't really listen to MP3, so I couldn't really tell the difference, but it's there. There's direct mode compensation. It's basically to make dialogue on movies better. Cinema EQ, which greatly reduces the high frequencies during a movie. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but it's there. There's dialogue control. So again, if you're having a hard time hearing the dialogue, you can go into that mode. I don't run a center channel even when I'm watching movies. All you have to do is take that out of the speaker selection when you're inputting your speakers, and it just distributes the center channel to both your fronts. I don't really find it a need to have a center channel, and they're big and they're bulky, and it messes with my music. Okay, so it's got ARC and eARC, all the latest stuff, and this is actually an 8K receiver. So you're into that. This is one of the first receivers. I think there's another Denon out there that does 8K, but if you want it, you got it. Okay, it does everything. Does HDR10, HDR10 Plus, Dolby Vision. So all the latest and greatest high dynamic range video, I'll call them codecs. It runs them, and it runs them well. Actually, this thing kind of solved my Dolby Vision problem with my Apple TV 4K. I was running an Onkyo receiver, and I had a heck of a time. It would basically shut the TV down every time I switched out of a Dolby Vision native broadcast or video. This fixed it. So whatever this is doing, the Onkyo is not doing. It's got gaming modes with variable refresh rates, latency compensation things, lip sync compensation, all that. It's got all of it. All right. So let's talk about the wireless network functionality, because I think that's one of the reasons why someone might buy this. This utilizes HEOS technology, and that's the Marantz and Denon platform that they use. And so if you have a bunch of different HEOS devices, they sell HEOS speakers. You can go into the app and you can assign the speakers or the receiver to different zones or the same zone. So you can say, I want to play Megadeth in the kitchen. If you got the HEOS, component over there, you play Megadeth to the kitchen. And I want to play Miles Davis to my bedroom. You can do that. I will say HEOS is clunky as heck. It looks to me like it's built on the Play 5 platform, which has been around for a while, and that was clunky enough. However, it does integrate all sorts of different things. So the HEOS app and platform brings in Spotify, it brings in Tidal, it brings in Amazon Music HD, which is what I use. It brings in networked storage devices, which I have. I have a NAS with all my music that I've ripped from CDs. And it actually does that pretty well, but I'll get back to that. So internet radio, iHeartRadio, SiriusXM, all of that is in one app, and it's the HEOS app. This is also a Spotify Connect device, and when I use Spotify, that's what I like to do, because you bring up Spotify, you play your song, and then there's a little icon, and you hit that, and it has all the Spotify Connect devices, and this is one of them, so you can just hit that. Excuse me. You hit that, and then it casts right to your device, so you don't have to mess around with the HEOS app, which is not very good. You can just use your Spotify app. So it also has similar functionality with Amazon HD Music. So I pull up my Amazon HD on my app, start, listen to it, hit play, and then I hit the devices, and the Marantz NR1711 is on there. And then I just cast to it. However, there is a limitation with that. It only plays in 24-bit 44.1, which is CD quality. And that's fine, but part of the reason why I have Amazon HD is because there's 24.196, 24.92. There's a lot of different things. No, excuse me, it only broadcasts in 16.44.1. So anything that's in 24-bit, it doesn't do it with the Amazon HD Music Connect. I'll call it the Connect functionality. However, there is an Amazon HD Music, I will call it a plugin, into the HEOS app. And there it will play the full resolution. However, through that app, you don't get any of your playlists. You don't get anything that you've saved. It is basically just a search. If you want to listen to Johnny Cash, you search Johnny Cash. But none of the playlists that you've created show up in that app. So it kind of plays Amazon HD at full resolution, but with none of the functionality of the Amazon HD app. So that's kind of frustrating, but it is what it is. This is also it's Amazon Alexa compatible, and it's Google Home Assistant compatible. The weird thing about the Amazon Assistant, so you say, Alexa, I can't say it very loud, otherwise everything in my house starts to ask me questions. Alexa, play Nirvana Unplugged on the Marantz NR1711. I don't even have to say NR1711. And it plays like that. No latency, none of the waiting that I have to do with the apps. It's very strange that somehow Alexa, it works better with Alexa than it doesn't. The other thing it works well with is my networked music. So in the HEOS app, the one music source that works well, and when I say works well, I mean when I hit the next track starts. If I'm using any of the other platforms, like Amazon Music HD, I'm trying to think what else I've tried. I tried Tidal on it too. When I hit next track, it may be 3 or 4 seconds before the next track plays. If I hit pause, it's 3 or 4 seconds. With my networked music, it's almost instantaneous, which leads me to believe it may be a network issue, but I don't know why it would be a network issue because I've got pretty good Wi-Fi. Anyway, it's kind of a hiccup and kind of a pain, but it does work. It doesn't work great, but it does work. And I don't have any other experience with other streamers. I have been interested in the Blue Sound Node 2i, which is a standalone streamer, and a DAC, but it's a standalone streamer. Which, speaking of DACs, this has no USB connection. So if you're hooking up a computer to this, you're going to need to get a USB to optical or USB to coax. I don't even know if they make USB to coax, but they do make USB to optical. So if you want to bring a computer in, you're going to have to do it that way. Or you'll have to get an external DAC, plug it into there, plug the USB connection into there, and then into your analogs, which kind of makes it lose some of its value appeal. All right, it says it's Roon tested. And I had Roon, I tried it out for a while. If Roon's your thing, I don't know if this is the component for you, because when you do Roon, it goes through Apple AirPlay. It goes through AirPlay 2. But part of the reason I did Roon or was trying it out is because of the high-res capabilities. When you go Apple AirPlay, I think, and I'm pretty sure I'm right, I think you're limited to 16-bit 44. So if you're doing high-res streaming from Roon, I don't think this is your device. Will it work? Yes, it'll play music. Will it play music as good as you want it to? No, it won't. All right, so we talked about that. So we kind of talked about everything. So what are my final thoughts on this? I think if you don't have a dedicated streamer, if you don't have a dedicated receiver, if you don't have a dedicated integrated amp, and you're going to buy one, then you should look hard at this. If you have an older receiver and you want a streamer with it, look hard at this. If you have an older receiver that you want to do 8K, look hard at this. It's 50 watts, but I will argue that 50 watts is all you're going to need. Also, one more really cool thing about this is I'm going to switch it around. Is it has preamp outputs for the front channels, and that opens up a whole world of possibilities. So if you are really into music and you want to get a little bit different sound signature than is coming out of this, you can just plug those preamps into a power amp, and then you can hook your speakers up to the power amp. If you got really hard to drive speakers and you feel like the 50 watts or the 75 watts in the 4 ohms or whatever it is isn't doing it for you, buy a power amp, hook that up. That was one of the biggest reasons why I bought this, is because short term, you've got everything that you need, and there's an upgrade path. And I like upgrade paths because that means I can use the same piece of equipment and make it better when I've saved up enough money for it. It's also got a phono input, a moving magnet only phono input. So you can tell that there is a lot of music functionality that they put into this. The direct mode, the pure direct mode is good. And I tested this in pure direct mode against the Denon PMA 600 NE. The Denon sounded a bit better than the Marantz, but not significantly better. I also tested this against the Moon by Sim Audio 240i, which is a $2,500 integrated amp that's worth about $400. The Moon sounded a little bit better. A little bit better. So if you think about it in terms of you have a dedicated integrated amp with a DAC and a streamer, you have a 7.2 channel surround receiver with all the latest and greatest processing and even 8K functionality. Not only do you have an integrated 2-channel amp, but you have an integrated 2-channel amp with a sub out, with subs out, and a DAC in it, and a streamer. You start to see the value proposition keep cropping up. So let's say you bought the Denon PMA 600 NE, which does not have preamp outs, by the way. So that's $400. Then you buy a $100 DAC. That's $500. Then you buy the Blue Sound Node 2i, which is another $500. So you're up to $1,000. So you're saving $200 on this. And you get more I'd argue you get more functionality with this simply because you have preamp outputs and you can add a external amp later on. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. But when you see the forest for the trees and how much functionality you can get in this, I think it's a high value, even at $800. I think to put something together as good as this, you're into the $1,000, $1,200, even more range. If you can deal with the HEOS issues and the clunkiness of it, it does work. It just doesn't work great. And I don't know of any streamer that really just is awesome right now. That's why I'd like to get my hands on the Blue Sound. I just want to see how much better it is. When you take that into consideration, bi-amp capabilities, being able to run an entirely dedicated 2-channel system in addition to a 5.1 system if you want it. It's pretty cool. I like it, and it's little. I don't like the big, huge, chunky receivers. So, yeah, I think it's a value. I think it's a buy. I think it's a good value. If this is the only thing you want, I mean, you're basically getting four components really. You're getting an integrated amp, a DAC, a streamer, and a preamp if you want, and a receiver. It's almost 5 components into one. I think you'll be hard pressed to find something else. Also, I think Marantz sounds pretty good. It's built really well. It's really heavy. I took a peek under there. It's got really good caps in there. So it's good. And again, that 50 watts per channel, that's actual power. That's not just some thing that you see. It's 50 watts per channel with 2 channels driven at 0.08 THD, which is good. It's good. You should go search, it's the British audiophile, and he talks about how much power you actually need. And it's shocking that most people really only need about 4 to 10 watts to get exactly what they want out of their music or their movies. Movies are a little bit more dynamic. You'll need a little bit more juice for movies. I don't think you'll need more than 50 watts though. Anyway, that was a mouthful, and I hope you liked it. Again, I did another little video on this, but it just wasn't very good. So with that, I'm giving away a pair of Klipsch R51Ms. I'll link that in the description. Sign up, subscribe to the channel, like this video if you liked it, and come on back. I'm Randy, I'm the Cheap Audio Man.